Welcome back to Good Morning Football. Will Self is out in the newsroom in Culver City with all the latest headlines, some quarterback injuries, and some teams looking to bounce back. One of those teams, the Broncos.
Yes, absolutely. They're dealing with an injury issue as well as all the losses as they begin to pile up. And when the Broncos hired Vic Fangio to be their head coach, the thought was Fangio would work the same magic he's worked with other defensive units. It hasn't gone according to plan. And this latest news, well, it's not going to help the cause there in the Mile High City as pass rusher Bradley Chubb is out for the year with the torn ACL. In the loss to the Jags, Chubb had collected his first sack of the season to go along with 7 tackles, 3 QB hits, and a tackle for a loss. Now, since the start of 2018, Chubb is the only player in the NFL with 13-plus sacks, 80-plus tackles, and multiple forced fumbles. Now, it is a painful routine that's become all too familiar with the Chargers. They're dealing with yet another injury. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport is reporting pass rusher Melvin Ingram is expected to miss a couple of weeks of action with a hamstring injury. He suffered the injury in the second quarter of the Chargers' win against the Dolphins on Sunday. The Bears deactivated linebacker Roquan Smith before Sunday's win over the Vikings, and it remains a mystery as to the motivation behind the decision. The team calling it a personal issue, yet he was seen on the sidelines. He never appeared on the injury report last week and left a lot more questions than answers. Answers head coach Matt Nagy was not able to provide.
What is Roquan's status for this week?
Again, he's completely a personal issue. It's for us something that we're going to just leave it at that right now.
Was he involved in a legal incident Saturday night?
Personal issue.
Would that rule out legal incident, or?
I'm just going to say it was a personal issue. I'm not getting into anything else, and so I'm just going to completely keep it at that.
When do you make a decision on whether he's going with you or playing this week?
Again, I'm on a personal issue.
Yeah, he was absolutely peppered with a lot of questions, and certainly it's unclear whether he'll play Sunday against the Raiders in London. What will be intriguing is whether he is going to be on the plane to London later this week, Schrag. So this is definitely a storyline that's developed that we'll continue to keep our eye on.
Different philosophies there. The Raiders left yesterday. They're already in London. The Bears waiting till Thursday. All eyes to see if Roquan is on that cross-country, cross-planet flight over to London.
Yeah.
Thank you, Will. Great stuff. Time for this morning's wake-up call presented by Verizon. And joining us now is the lead draft analyst on ProFootballFocus.com, a wealth of knowledge about the sport. And I believe he is the only Pro Football Focus staff member, and I could be wrong, to be a contestant on the show The Bachelorette. No joke.
So far.
The Bachelorette. Please welcome from Cincinnati. He cut the hair. Our guy, Mike Renner. What's up, Mike?
I still got the
Hey!
Peter.
Ponytail looks good. Mike, you're in Cincinnati and the PFF dojo, if you want to call it. That's where all you guys are there looking at the numbers and looking at the film. Patrick Mahomes has been asking his receivers, will you accept these throws? That is a Bachelorette reference. But the answer has been a resounding yes. Everyone's getting the throws. So the eye test tells us that Mahomes has been amazing, incredible. The numbers tell us this and that. What are you guys at PFF saying about just how good the reigning MVP has been?
We're going to catch a lot of flack for this, but he's not even the highest graded quarterback in the NFL currently for us. And now that's play-by-play grading, so looking at every single throw. And I think that's almost the scary thing about this Chiefs offense, the fact that he's left plays on the field. I think we need to talk more about how the Chiefs offense has been historic, not necessarily how Mahomes himself has been historic, because he has over 100 more yards than any other quarterback in the NFL to receivers that have at least a step of separation. This offense is just scheming guys open. Guys are getting open at a higher rate than we've just ever seen, in our 10-plus years of charting this.
All right, Mike, you and I both know the power of the first impressions rose. You get the first impressions rose, you can just streamline all the way to the end. In fact, the first impression rose went to Jesse Palmer of the New York Giants. However, Dak Prescott might have gotten it this season as well as he played through 3 weeks. He got the rose, but maybe the bloom is off it a little bit, if you will, after not playing well against New Orleans. Was that a blip on the radar for Dak and all business as usual, or should maybe Cowboys fans be a little concerned after what they saw on Sunday?
I think there's definitely a reason to be concerned. The 3 defenses he faced the first 3 weeks of the season all have bottom 10 ranked coverage units per our PFF grading here. There's a few key areas where I think I wanted to see progression from Dak Prescott this upcoming season. One was in throwing the ball, accurately down the football field. One was in avoiding sacks and avoiding, getting the ball out of his hands. The first regard, throwing the ball down the football field, we really haven't seen much of an improvement from him. His big time throw rate, which is our subjective measure of good, impressive throws down the football field, is about the same we've seen from him over the course of his career. He's just throwing the ball more often down the field, has more guys open. That scheme that Kellen Moore had and the defense he's faced has allowed that. The biggest thing, though, with me is he's avoiding sacks. Last year, 50-plus sacks, only 3 so far this season. His sack conversion rate, which is how often he converts pressure to sacks, is the lowest of his entire career. That's the encouraging part to me. If he can keep avoiding sacks, and this stretch is going to be huge for him without Tyron Smith going up against, a few good defenses here in the Packers this upcoming week, I think that's going to be huge for him to prove that he can avoid those sacks, keep your offense on schedule. Then we'll see the Cowboys offense, if it can be, back to that 2016 form.
Mike, now some of those Cowboys struggles can be attributed to that Saints defense. And we certainly haven't seen the Saints win many games in which they scored just 12 points over the past few years, but they're playing different without Drew Brees. We all understand that. Is there reason to believe that New Orleans can sustain the success in the NFC or maybe even get into that playoff picture within the NFC without the league's leading passer?
I think there's definitely a reason to believe that they still should be the favorites in the NFC North to win that division. They have, in my opinion, by far the best defense in that division. It starts with their defensive line. This is arguably one of the best defensive lines in all of football. The guy that's not really been talked about a ton is Marcus Davenport. He's made a huge leap from what we saw from him as a rookie to the second year now. 22 pressures, top 10 amongst all defenders in the NFL so far this season. And now they get Sheldon Rankins back this past week from an Achilles injury. I think this front four, when you talk about Cameron Jordan, who's had 90-plus, elite overall grades each of the last 3 seasons, and David Onyemata, one of the most underrated defensive tackles in the NFL, that front four can go toe-to-toe with any D-line in the NFL.
Sheldon Rankins will definitely stop the run. Love that he debuted last week. Mike, I'm going to spare you the Bachelorette jokes. I've never seen the show, but I do want to say thank you to you and Steve and Sam and everybody over there at PFF for your advanced analytics and your grades. We use it a lot here on the show and in my prep for games week to week. I want to ask you about another quarterback that has gone in the NFC, not just the Saints, but the Bears. They lose Mitchell Trubisky Sunday. He's a dislocated shoulder. My guy from Mizzou, Chase Daniel, comes in there and he fills in admirably to help Chicago in a crucial division win. So how big of a loss is Trubisky with Chase Daniel taking over?
I'm not going to say it's a loss at all. I think they might be legitimately upgrading from Mitchell Trubisky here because of the way that team is built. Mitchell Trubisky, very high variance. He misses a lot of throws. He'll make you some big plays down the field. He'll make some plays with his legs. But he simply was just not good enough. He was the second lowest graded quarterback in the NFL this season. Over a quarter of his passes were deemed completely uncatchable. Only Cam Newton and Josh Rosen threw more off-target passes than Trubisky this season. He just did not keep the offense on schedule. I think Chase Daniel is going to do a much, much better job of just executing Matt Nagy's offense. The scheme there, coming from Andy Reid, and we talked about that earlier, about how it's one of the best schemes in the NFL. It's been that way for the Bears as well. They have the talent to run it. Chase Daniel will get the ball to his playmakers far more efficiently, far more accurately, and with that defense, he's not going to turn the ball over as much as Trubisky did. So I think with that defense, he plays a much more winning brand of football. So as much as Bears fans wanted to pump up their guy all offseason with Mitchell Trubisky, I think he might be better off in the long run winning games with Chase Daniel under center.
I'm not being disrespectful, Mike. I respect everything you do about your PFF work.
That's not what I meant.
But back to the Bachelorette. I have a real question here.
The people want to know.
I mean, I guess it's cool that Chase Daniel's good. But look, Colton was the winner. He was an ex-football player. Clay Harbor was on the show, an ex-football player. And you come in here, the number and analytics guy. How much ball was talked about on the Bachelorette when you guys are not on camera and actually talking about things other than, Molly's hand or whoever it was? I forget.
Hannah, right?
I think Hannah, whoever.
Oh, man, one of these guys stop. I keep getting this. But, they talked about a lot of ball. They were very skeptical of PFF grading system. I converted them by the end of the show. They were on board. They respected my knowledge of the game, even though I didn't play at the level that they did. So, we talked a lot of ball off camera. Clay was really hopeful that he would get back in the league. Doesn't look like it's happening, but he might be in the XFL here coming soon.
Nice.
That's good. Mike Renner, awesome stuff. We appreciate you. I promise you next time we will only ask 75% of the questions.
He just looked uncomfortable with the rose.
Peter,
helmet.
he's here to talk ball. He's here for the right reasons.
He's here for the right reasons. As long as you're here for the right reasons, we care. Thank you, Mike. Awesome job, dude.
Renner, you're the best. Talk to you a little bit later on in the season, Tricks. I just didn't feel like I was reading his face and he didn't want to talk.
Of course he doesn't want to talk about it. He went on the show. We didn't.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about real world the last 20 years.
Then don't go on the show. I don't know.
But more about the Tyler Cameron guy. Let's continue that conversation.
All day. Hello.
The Rams got shook by the